If you have a group of, let's say, 5 creatures in front of your squishy wizard, do you A, rush in and attack, or B, get some distance and maybe behind an ally and lob some magic from afar?
B is the better option, I would think, in most situations.
Then why the hell is Burning Hands a spell? It's only got a 15-foot radius cone that is from you, and it's only learned specifically by wizards and sorcerers, the squishiest of classes who can learn it. And I did check the 2024 version as well. And yes, it's the same thing. Still close range, still 15 feet. So above table, Nick, if you have chosen Burning Hands, get rid of that. You don't need to pick it.
Legati has Frost Fingers, which is Burning Hands but worse and cold, because he's that kind of wizard. I also just picked like Erupting Earth instead of Fireball for my 3rd level damaging spell, so I'll be all right. I'll figure it out. But I don't think I'm ever using Frost Fingers. No.
Perfect.
It's like Poison Spray too. I think that's also like 15 feet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Personally, I always see that like that's for my squishy. That is my panic button. That is the enemy has gotten too close and I have to leave.
I think there is a spell that's like a radius thing. Like it's not a cone. It's like surrounding you. There should be a thing. Hey, by the way, welcome players, DMs, and TTRPG enthusiasts. Yeah. Guess what, everyone? Choose your spells now. You just had a long rest. Yeah, we're not selecting Frost Fingers or Burning Hands. Anything that has to deal with elements from your hand that start from the hand are bad.
I had Poison Spray on Iris, Mike, and that came in handy because it stacked when she leveled. But then she'd also blow people kisses and then like they
Iris
die, so
was
it's fine.
your what?
Huh?
Iris was your druid?
Yeah, she had that as a kid.
Well, druids are a little more beefy than sorcerers and wizards.
True.
I can totally get a druid going into the fray, especially now they have like primal savagery and stuff like that.
Yeah, she was a dinosaur a lot that ate people. That was a thing. It was fun times.
So, today, we haven't done this in a while because there really hasn't been anything super newsworthy, and we were just having the conversation about it. We're going to talk about Sigil.
Ew. I hate it.
Worst pronunciation choice, I think. That's the bad
my
ending.
ears.
This is the wrong timeline. Whatever the creators did, why they decided this was... Nick, you are a little bit more educated than I am. Is Sigil a word? Like, is that an actual word?
No, I just shared the discussion in D&D Beyond, and several people are quoting the like Oxford English Dictionary. The word sigil is pronounced sigil with like a J sound.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That is the word. And it's a thing where like the reason that it's called sigil is because of the D&D setting where the city name is sigil. Yeah. But it seems like a lot of the creators at one time or another called it Sigil, called the city Sigil. And I think maybe Matt Mercer and maybe like official D&D people have at different times said that it should be Sigil, like with a hard G sound. But like I said before, this is a GIF situation where the creators are clearly wrong. It should be GIF and it should be Sigil.
Yeah,
I think that's clear.
It's GIF and it's Sigil.
Yeah.
Sigil sounds too it feels like you're swallowing something while you're saying the word. It's like Sigil.
It sounds like a halfling
and you're trying
city.
to say something you
It
don't want to say.
does. Yeah. It's like something a dwarven man would give you, like in a rusty kind of like bar. It's like, try this Sigil. It goes down smooth.
No, thanks.
No thanks, man.
Insight
It
check.
sounds like how you would say it if you were intentionally trying to be like silly while reading the word, you know?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I want to pronounce it intentionally incorrectly. How would I do that? Sigil. We're gonna go to Sigil.
It sounds like the beginning of someone who's pretending to like, who's really into like the ooh voice. It's like, it's Sigil. It's like, please stop. I'm going to die.
Oh no.
Hopefully now that
Why
I
are we
brought that out
talking
into the, Hopefully, now that I said that into the ether, people will catch that on and go, "You're right. It does sound stupid."
And hope.
Yeah, one can hope. No, Sigil. I'm gonna start. They can't
Yo,
make
I
me.
said it like that. My bad, but it sounds better.
Yeah,
it doesn't hurt my ears.
Sigil can. They can't stop me from saying it the right way. But
yeah, that's how it's spelled. If they wanted it to be called Sigil, they could have made it Sigil.
We're never gonna leave the subject.
I'm just saying.
It's no more. And apparently, this is not the first time that Wizards of the Coast or Hasbro or whoever was owning D&D or whoever made the decision canceled a first-party VTT. Excuse me. So this is not the first time. Apparently, they did this years ago, where they announced it and then they didn't do anything. And this time they announced it, did 3 promotional videos that were pretty heavily like with all these special guest stars and like voice actors from Larian Studios, Baldur's Gate 3, and D&D influencers. Like I think they had like Bria Eingard, and they had Brandley Mulligan, and they had all these people, and they played a few games. I think I only remember 3 of them, 3 videos that were released. And then, of course, the promotional material that was scarce. That is it. That was all she wrote.
Was the previous launch a different named VTT or same thing?
No, I don't know the full history, but I have seen screenshots of like official employees going, "We're working on a VTT. Get ready for future announcements. It's coming." And then the following, this project has been, X'd out. Yeah, we're no longer doing
it. We got the
it.
axe. Bye. Oh, that's awful.
Yeah.
I think them burning their bridge. Well, Larian burned the bridge that said, "I don't really want to work with you guys because you're a bunch of assholes to your employees." I think once that bridge got burned, that VTT was semi-doomed after all.
Yeah, they wanted it to look and feel like Baldur's Gate 3 so that they could capture, that D&D got lucky in, they worked with the right company to make like a great game that goes well beyond people who like actually playing 5e. So like, all right, we have to, make it accessible to those people. We have to trick people into thinking it's going to be like more Baldur's Gate 3, whatever it may be. But yeah, they're not good to work with, seems like. Solarian doesn't want to make any DLC or anything for them. So it's like, all right, let's make our virtual tabletop based on that. But yeah, I mean, I was saying earlier that a lot of the initial responses and the people who've tried it were like, well, it needed like a powerful graphics card to run well.
Right.
Because it was running like a version of that kind of engine. I think it didn't work on Macs like at all. Which seemed to be a kind of a cutting your market.
That's half your market.
Thing. Like Roll20 can be clunky and can be slow and has a lot of issues, and like the similar ones do. But like, there's a reason that they are stripped down, 2-dimensional, and that the bells and whistles that you can add to them, not everybody wants to. And it's because part of the thing is like, if you are all sitting around a tabletop, it's like there's no friction. You just set it up and you can all interact with it. And so you want the lowest friction possible to the experience. And you don't want to have a good computer. You don't want it running slow when somebody casts a spell. You want it to just be accessible. I mean, that's part of the reason I'm not a personal big fan of tabletop simulator for anything. I love board games and I play a lot of board games and I like digital adaptations of board games, but tabletop simulator is always so clunky. There's so much friction. You can accidentally flip the table if they haven't turned that option off in a lot of the modules. Like it doesn't feel like playing on the tabletop, and it's not a smooth experience. Like, you got to be giving me some degree of both of those things in a virtual tabletop.
Did you like Astral? Because I know we kind of let you play around with it when you did the Christmas one shot.
All of those equivalents, like, I can't remember anyone really standing out, honestly. But they were all, like, all the Roll20 likes were like, yeah, this would work. If this was the dominant one and had all the modules, I would use this one. I think that like a lot of Forged in the Dark is on like Foundry or whatever. I think there's different options have different like like less popular RPGs or like niche RPGs are more popular on different platforms. But I think the advantage of Roll20 is that it's the popular one, and that is an advantage with a virtual tabletop. It's hard to be the other one trying to cut into that.
You have to convince people to switch over or make accounts.
Yeah. Like when we wanted to play Blades in the Dark, they have character sheets for it already in there, right? Like that's a huge thing. If you want it, it's already in there probably. Couldn't play Blades very easily on Wizards thing, of course, because they wouldn't want you to, right?
Yeah. Well,
it's very limiting.
We used Foundry for a while, but then there was something you didn't like about it, right, Mike? I don't even remember.
Foundry, I'll be very abrasive that Foundry is amazing. It has a lot of cool tools. It has a full library full of like mods and add-ins and plugins that were community created that are then supported by the raw system. So it constantly got updates where the devs of Foundry were like, 30 new people have made this amazing new addition of like having your dice interact with other dice, or having magic spells go off and you can target things now and you can show your little HP bar go down. We're going to update so that we can support that better or give it some better performance. And they were really, really good. The problem is that the reason why they were so quick to update and so easy to do so is because they weren't putting a lot of their money. They were putting all their money into dev. They were not putting their money into server maintenance, because server maintenance was on you. You had to make your server, or you had to go and purchase a server from a third-party company, which is what I was doing for a bit, which was I was going through this third-party company and buying it for like, I don't know, at $10, $5 a month. I forgot how much it was. Probably $9.99. Honestly.
I remember that now. Yeah.
Yeah. And everything was hosted on their platform. And of course, you only have a limited amount of space that you can use. And sometimes mods take space. And it just kind of got expensive and ridiculous when, to be honest, the only thing I was running it was kind of the stuff I'm running on Roll20. I would really love to continue to use Alchemy. I love Alchemy because nowadays a lot of my combat is like a lot of my role play and a lot of the games I run are theater of the mind. And it is until there is a big battle where I require a map. Beyond that, you don't need I don't need to show you anything for a shop owner. I don't need to show you anything for, interacting with an NPC. If you go into a forest, I don't need to show you anything. It's all theater of the mind. It's just very resource hungry. And that's what we found out about your PC, Amber, was that it was like chugging along.
Yeah, but that was before the new laptop and the new RAM. I don't know. We haven't tested.
We haven't. I mean, it depends. And now there are a bunch of new indie VTTs that are popping up out of nowhere that are wonderful. Don't drop any names.
I will.
We're not getting paid.
We haven't. He seems nice though.
But they seem nice. So yeah, I'm excited to see what it is. But I had one of my coworkers brought me a question or dropped an idea, and this is a conspiracy theory. I was expanding upon it. And maybe you guys can, if you guys feel the same way or not, definitely love to hear it.
We love those.
Yeah, I love being Charlie Day.
Tinfoil hat.
I like Charlie Day and putting all the pins and wires and threads together. Whoever, Sergio Pepe or whatever, whatever it was, the name. Yeah, Sylvia. I have a theory that Wizards of the Coast took the build or engine that Larian Studios had for Baldur's Gate 3, because that's in the game industry, and especially Nick, you may know this too because you worked in game journalism. That happens sometimes where people steal an engine, repurpose it, publish it out, and hopefully they don't get caught. And my theory,
I mean, I don't know who owns the one in this case. It might be that it is property of Wizards anyway, right? Or Hasbro anyway.
Yeah, it's again, it's all it's all conspiracy theory because the fact that Larian Studios is very protective of this thing, it has me. I'm fairly confident that there was some sort of handshake agreement, like, okay, we are using your license and IP and sort of all these little settings and names and things like that. In exchange, you don't touch us, which is why like Wizards can't go to Larian and go, we demand DLC, because Larian is literally going, nah, you can't make us. Right. So I have a feeling that something that was built, even though it was through the IP, is sort of still either a joint ownership or something here happened. My theory is Wizards took the engine and was like, we can make this into a virtual tabletop. It has all the assets. It has a system already built in that measures how far you can go and how far your character's distance is. It does flying well. It does swimming. No, it doesn't do swimming, but it does flying. It has like disadvantage, advantage, height things. It's got all the spells and the effects and spell HP and AC and how your ability scores affect things. And my theory was that they got caught and now they pumped out something that doesn't work on Apple.
That could be. You know, I've actually been really curious. Not so much that I looked it up because I'm too lazy for that, but what like what that was like, because I guys recently just finished my first playthrough of Baldur's Gate 3. It's been a while. I hadn't touched it until now. It was wonderful, but also I was really impressed. My friend has read through some of like the books they wrote in like the 1990s and stuff on like the gods and the Avatar Crisis and stuff like that, and has been relaying it all to me. And I was so impressed with how Baldur's Gate like was so true to that side of the lore, like to the older lore versus like the non-existent 5e lore that they put out. Kind of like retcons everything. So I'm like, I've been curious, like who wrote that? I want to talk to those writers and like, do they work at Wizards of the Coast, or are they just like big fans of D&D? So I wouldn't be surprised if there was like some handshake or something. I don't know. I'd be curious.
Either that or like Larian was like, hey, we have all the assets. You could put a table and a house and a boat and all this stuff. Wizards, why don't we make a VTT? And Wizards was like, no, that's our idea now. We're going to make one now too.
Probably.
Yeah, I wonder,
they just took
like
pieces.
Yeah, Larian, like they had the same basic system in their Divinity games, which are very similar in a lot of ways. The original Sin 1 and 2, and that's where you get weird stuff in Baldur's Gate 3, where like whether stuff is wet or oily or whatever is like a big part of it, because that's a big part of combat strategy in Divinity, is like breaking an oil barrel and then casting a fire spell is like a big part of the tactics in those games. And so it's like has way more of a place in Baldur's Gate 3 than is anything. There's no rules in the player's handbook for like, if you're wet, then this happens to you or whatever, right?
Lightning damage does more or something.
Yeah, you have those things that make sense, but that's all Larian, inventing that stuff. But yeah, I mean, it is interesting. I played all the original Baldur's Gate games, and so it was great to see that lore continue in the those used the different rule set. They used the advanced Dungeons and Dragons rule set and all that, but to see the story actually continue and the same characters actually come back. But I mean, again, what you like about Baldur's Gate 3 is largely like the story, the characters. It's not the system was so great, the interface is so great. It was fine, it didn't get in the way. But like what Wizards wants there to be is this, okay, we can't have official DLC, but people will just make infinite modules so people will buy and play this game forever, which may happen. And it happened with like Neverwinter Nights and previous D&D games had like a large modding and fan-made module scene and all of that. And they wanted to blur the lines with their tabletops because they want people coming over from the video game and like playing the tabletop game and all of that. But with 90% of the team laid off and everything, it seems like that's not going to happen. And I think it's a like pretty safe bet these days to be like, oh, a large number of people in the video game company or making some kind of like digital product were laid off. probably they weren't given the resources they need or the room they needed to make it correctly.
Yeah.
I can't imagine they would be like, yeah, let's not make it work on Mac. Like, why would they do? They know that's a bad idea. I'm sure the 90% of people that just got laid off did make the argument, hey, we should probably think about lowering the system requirements here. And
they were the loudest.
Yeah.
They were definitely the loudest.
Yeah.
You know? We've seen that. In a alternate timeline where Larian didn't burn the bridge, and rightfully so.
Yeah, they were rightfully so.
They were fighting for. They were like vocal about the treatment of their Wizards of the Coast employees. But in this alternate universe where everyone was cool, the fact that I honestly do believe that if that was the case, I think Larian could have turned around and said, "Hey, we already have all the assets in the system. Why don't we just make a VTT?" Because to your point, Nick, all those older games, I don't believe VTTs were as popular, or maybe just not around. And now it's like, hey, this is an avenue for people to play board games without being physically there. If someone just had like a workshop, like dev kit, for Baldur's Gate 3, where all access to all the assets and just make a room. You make a room and you put some forest around a room and you make an outside and then you put little goblins around where the dungeon master can drag them and attack. I think I think honestly, the fact that Baldur's Gate 3 runs pretty well, even on older systems, it would be a great VTT. You can already connect online.
Yeah.
I'm always curious, because I've not seen how Sigil looks or is supposed to look, but I can't imagine even creating a map with that would be easy.
Mm-hmm.
Just because of especially the 3D aspects, and with Baldur's Gate there's a level of shaders that makes everything look really nice, which will also slow things down. And then where do you place lighting? Is that a feature?
Well, they've
that
already
just feels really chunky.
They actually have already proven that they can, not Larian Studios, but people have proven that they can do that. What's
Really?
that VTT that Dimension 20 utilized a lot?
Oh, Tailspire.
Tailspire, I've dabbled a little bit in that. It is a 3D map, like a map maker, where you can drag little icons around in a 3D space. The only problem that they don't do is they don't house your sheet, anything. It's just literally a little play thing where you grab your token and you move it around.
Oh, cool. I was not aware of that.
Yeah.
So what of these that they're trying to do already exists, and they're just doing it first.
It is, though. There is a learning curve. I mean, to your point, there is so much to think about. What lighting do you have? Where's the water? Where's the shadows? There's a lot to think about. And I can only assume with a larger asset library like Baldur's Gate 3, it'd probably be more complicated.
Yeah, I think there's we're immediately hitting on one of the reasons why this was never going to work is all of the other ones, or all of the other popular ones, the Roll20 likes. How many maps and tokens and everything can you find just by Googling during a game? Right? It's oh, we need an ice cave map or whatever. Those are all out there. They're 2D. They don't have all the they're not 3-dimensional and all that, but you can instantly have it. Everything for Sigil would have needed to be handcrafted. Assets would have needed to be added. If you made up a monster, how do you get it in there?
Yeah.
True.
I love monsters. I would be so pissed off that I had to keep on selecting owlbears.
It's not homebrew friendly at all for something like that.
Oh, that's so true. That it seems like something that would work really well for something a la Dimension 20. That's great for a production where they can pre-prepare, and then it's for something like that, and then maybe also have access to create a homebrew icon or asset or whatever.
It might be good for modules.
For the average player, there's no way.
Imagine playing Strahd in Baldur's Gate 3 system. It again, in this alternate timeline where Laren and Wizards of the Coast were like, yeah, let's continue to make stuff together. They could technically make a VTT for modules, so you can go boot up Strahd and be like, everyone, let's play Strahd. They can create cut scenes, at least the opening, if they wanted to. Again, I'm putting a wish list out here that's never going to come to be.
That would actually be super sick. I would love to play Strahd in the way that I played Baldur's Gate.
Yeah, and don't they? I mean, again, I've never played Strahd, but I know it's a module and it probably has pre-made maps, stuff that the DM knows you're going to be fighting in, so it can be utilized over and over and over again. They have vampire assets. Why don't just make a new module, a model of Strahd? And you could, much like the narrator when you're going around, I know that Strahd can taunt you guys, taunt the party as you're walking around. Again, I am throwing out a wish list that's never going to come to be.
I think it's interesting how much of like what we're saying, it was kind of like, you can see how they got here. Mm-hmm. Because I'm sure that people at Hasbro and D&D pitched this exact thing. Oh, yeah. Wouldn't this be great? And a lot of the reason it would be great from their perspective is it keeps people within official content, because it's a lot easier for they'll make a Strahd module, right? And they'll make the maps for that and put it in 3D and all of that. Like they keep it in there, but it's again, it's you buy official miniatures versus you just buy whatever, right? If you're playing on the tabletop, you buy like a lot of detailed battle maps, or you just draw with a marker. Right? Like at a certain point, it's what is quick and easy and flexible, I think, is going to win out most of the time, whether it's virtual or a physical tabletop.
That's pretty valid. Speaking of how your tabletop and your table is doing altogether, I did write this down as a sort of a subject to talk about. I guess we kind of covered both subjects, both VTT in general, as well as Sigil. But when it comes down to being in a party, enjoying an adventure, and then something within life, and this is sort of a rule I always build out, which is IRL comes first. What's the best way to remove yourself from a game? And I wrote down... Yeah, what's up?
For this prompt, is this like long-term leaving the table, or like something came up, I gotta go?
We can argue for both, but my intention was long-term.
Okay.
Because I have experienced people...
We've done this before, Mike.
Yeah, we've been through this roller coaster a few times where someone temporarily leaves. And not this party specifically, I know we're talking about like Ventir. I've had players leave for months and then come back, and it's always been sort of an interesting sort of narrative how to get them back in. But if you want to leave permanently, which I've also done, what's the best way to leave? Especially if you know you got a month. And you're like, okay, I got 3 sessions, I gotta leave. What do you do? I wrote down a few options. Either you die as a hero, you save the party, you have a noble death, it's heartfelt. It means something to the party that you were all sort of hanging out with. The other one I wrote down was a heel turn. You were a villain all along, and now you have to fight the party and they have to kill you. And that's kind of where I got stumped. I couldn't think of any other outs. Maybe you have a happy ending. Let's pretend you only got 3 sessions. It's like, can the DM build up? Let's see, you're in a cave. Can they really build up that your family up in north near volcano is okay and you need to leave?
The way it's been done at my table, more so by DM choice because of how the player left and things. The way we've mostly gone for it is like, I must go. Something's come up. My journey continues elsewhere without you. Or like that kind of thing. Or like with that monk mindset of like, I need to go train. I gotta go.
Yeah. The way I've experienced it for permanent players leaving is I had a player who was part of the start playing Mosted version of my Worlds. and they played for like 3-4 sessions, and they were getting really into it, really invested, and they were like, job came in, I can't do this anymore, I have to leave. And I was like, well, you're talking to like a guild leader. By the way, in this world, guild leaders are not bad. And was like, you're a sailor, right? And he's like, yeah. And he's like, great, we have a job for you, specifically you, because we need someone with your expertise. I'll pay you this much if you were to leave with me. And he was like, yeah, great. And that's how I got him out of the story, was like, you're gone. I had another experience where I had 2 players had to leave the party. And one of them was like, I think it's going to be temporary, but it may take me a few months. And the other one was like, I'm friends with that person, and if that person leaves, I leave. And if that person comes back, I come back. And I was like, okay, twofer. Both temporary. Had them both abducted. Someone, during a party, the player saw it, a couple elementals grabbed them, vanished. And eventually, only one of the members who, for months, was like, I'm ready to come back. The other person didn't want to. So only one of them was coming back. So I had to write out how that person just never came back. What happened to them? And it's always awkward because it's like, how do you explain this now? Why did that person get away and they didn't take them? Like, there's always a lot of questions. This is where I feel like I run into problems as a writer. That I'm like, okay. And you guys, this is the problem with dealing with experienced players like you all, is I'll write a scenario not thinking all of the little nuances, and you guys go, wait a minute, why didn't they do this? And I'll go, oh, now they look like an idiot. And you're like, they're idiots. And I'm like, I guess they are.
Only the guard and the,
I guess they are stupid.
It's your forces of power.
It's tricky. It's, I'm not going to say it's harder than just fiction writing, but it's different. Because in fiction writing, you're in charge of what's going to happen to all the characters, and you don't need to leave things open. And you're not like, you want to give somebody a good send-off. And is there a chance they're going to come back? That's often like unclear, right? So you want to leave it open-ended, which is hard to make it like as dramatic as you might want. Like if somebody has to move away and you're only an in-person game or whatever, you can do they do a big heroic sacrifice. That can feel a little contrived because you really have to set up a time where that makes sense, right? And also, we have virtual tabletops. How often does that happen these days, where somebody moves away and that's the end of them being able to play?
That's pretty valid.
If they really want it.
Yeah.
Like we had that experience with our long-term game as people moved away, and we transitioned to some people virtual and some people in person, and then eventually just everybody virtual because that's just the way things went. And then it doesn't matter so much. It has to do with how busy people are. I would say the times that we've done it, like, I was always glad that the characters were not dead. And, you have when you're a DM or a GM, you have character flags, which is like what the characters care about and how you motivate them. And, usually like the first few sessions, you're bringing everybody together. Why does everybody want to do this? One character who only cares about money, one character cares about knowledge or justice or whatever, right? And then they become a team and they do their thing. But it is possible to like move 1 or 2 character flags. They're going in this direction in a way that doesn't make sense for the rest of the group. Mm-hmm. And, that happens. Like, I think you can think about like the Marvel movies or whatever, like characters pairing up, characters going in different places, groups splitting up and going to deal with different things. And then movies follow certain groups of people. Well, the other ones aren't dead, and maybe they'll come back and rejoin the group at some point. Who knows what they're up to? Maybe we check in with them every once in a while. But yeah, I think it's like, what do they care about? And it's great if you can, like, if it feels like there's an organic reason for them to be leaving the rest of the party. Because it's like, in real life, you don't work with the same people forever or whatever, right? Yeah. Like, you're an adventuring party, you've done stuff together for a year, but 1 or 2 people might go do something else for a while, right?
There was a really sad thing to talk about adventurers. that I someone said it and I was like, that's really sad. Is I'm homeless now, so I don't have to be homeless later.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, that is true. Every adventuring party is sleeping in the forest somewhere, or going into a cave and going, I guess we'll take a long rest here while we're still fighting the oozes. It's like, you're always sleeping in the worst possible place. And if you are in a city, it's like,
hey,
I guess
always.
we have to, we have to pay an exorbitant amount, like, several gold just to have a night's rest in a dirty old tavern. Or we spend extra money and now we have to, we can't buy new equipment. It's such a sad thing.
It's fun how Blades in the Dark like mechanizes that, because you have your stash. You're literally trying to save for retirement, and based on when your character has to quit, if you get trauma out or whatever else, how much stash you have determines what the rest of your character's life is like, how comfortable they are. You're living a life of crime and danger now, so that you will eventually have a comfortable retirement. But I think Blades is a good counterexample, because if somebody had to leave Blades, I think they should be arrested or killed.
Yeah,
because everybody's in the same city. Like, fictionally, it's very hard to leave the city. It would be weird to go a separate way, but you're all criminals. So I think somebody should have to be, there should be a cost to somebody leaving, because I think that would be dramatically good for the game.
Yeah.
I think there's something to be said too about like the story that you're telling and like the setting that it's in. Like we were talking about Strahd earlier. I have never run Strahd, to be very clear. I've never played Strahd. I only know vampires. So, like, the thought I had was, like, if you were playing in a game like that, the way I would want, like, depending on what character I had, how I might want my character to go would be, like, kind of in, like, the heel turn you were talking about, but in the way of, like, no, I become, like, a vampire spawn. Like, I get turned. Like, something happens, maybe that's the heroic sacrifice, but now I'm part of the mob that chases you, even if it's against my will, sort of thing. Like, the setting, I think, will highly influence how that could go. Like getting arrested in a city or something.
Has anyone here thought about what would be the driving force to cause your player to retire now? Like, what would pull Legati out and go, I think my calling is this way now, and then switching over? Or like for Phoenix, like, is there something that would go, I don't think what I'm doing here with a group is aligning with what I want to try or what I want to do? Or same thing with Arrow. Like, have you guys thought about that for your characters? Oh, wow.
You
don't have to tell me. Don't say it. You just say, have you thought about it?
Yeah.
Nick,
I
have
don't
you?
think we'll find arrows, so we're good.
Yeah, I think, we talked about this before, and like part of the deal of, I think part of the social contract of making a character in a D&D game is, I have a reason to be wandering around, to be going on adventures and whatever. It shouldn't be entirely up to the DM to motivate my character. I shouldn't be like, well, I'm just going to stay here and work in this bar.
Yeah.
If that's what your character wants to do, that's fine. You have not built somebody that's made for a long-term D&D game. You want to play. There are other indie RPGs where you just manage a bar. That's fine, right? So,
can we play those? That'd be fun.
Yeah.
So,
Legati wants to wander because the Salal is everywhere, and he can see, learn more about it. And also, like, he's an archaeologist. He was traveling before the game started. I think he's going to be traveling until something extremely weird happens to him. Well, like, I see his endpoint as dying or ascending, right? Like, to where it doesn't make sense to walk around anymore, because that's just not how he does things, right? Like, that's the end point for him, not a pile of gold and not like living in a place. Like, that doesn't make sense for Legati as an endpoint.
I'm gonna invent a moving house, and Legati's just gonna be like, I just stay in my moving house, and occasionally I park it somewhere and I walk out.
I live in the Baba Yaga house.
The trick is Legati believes that, like, this life and flesh and whatever is just like a lie on the surface of things. So I don't see how he ends up, still having it. Right? Like, we've talked about it. We have that lake of change water. I think maybe he goes into it and doesn't come out at some point.
Can't
right?
wait.
Like we don't know.
Water.
Yeah. I've the gazing pool. I've it's a full wild magic surge thing. It's a way bigger list that I found. I'm like, great, this is what happens.
Awful.
It's amazing.
I don't want to be a potted plant.
That's the fun part of playing with a character like Legati, is trying to have like reason with your own character, like dealing with that madness. How can Arrow cope with Legati being like, I would like to change into a plant, maybe?
You would.
It'd
like
be
your
great
average
to feel it.
Yeah, just having not clinging on to the things that living people typically take for granted. It's a kind of thing that could be a problem, right? Like if you had a character that was like, oh, I don't care about money, I don't care about learning things, I don't care, like if your character doesn't care about things, right, that's an issue. But to tie it back into the topic, if you've built a character that cares about something, then whatever it is that takes that character out of the main game, I think should tie into that.
Yeah.
To feel fictionally satisfying.
It's kind of why
to sacrifice for their friends, or they go off after their flag, whatever it is.
It's kind of why when me and Steve were talking about Arshad, I was like, you need to have a quick fix. We have to have a reason, something that's upset you, and a result that would make you happy and not want to be with this party anymore. You're with them for a certain degree, and he was like, I just want to be back with my wife. And I'm like, great, there's the end goal. Let's either you get back with your wife or she kills you. And that's how we're gonna end this. And
maybe
he's
the
like,
latter.
Yeah, well, that was honestly, that was the discussion, was like either you steal your money and you move away because the moment she notices that the money's gone, she's gonna find you. Or she kills you when you see her, she sees you stealing it, or you get back together. Those are the three options. And he was like, great, we'll let it happen. I was like, sounds good. And that's why when near the end of the Arshad little tangent, it was like, you're not going with the rest of the party. You're going away. Morris is coming back. I have to make room. Go away.
Morris, we missed you.
Putting a hand on, just like, go over there. Go be your half-orc tiefling introspected paladin who hasn't fully discovered himself yet.
He's doing great.
He's trying. He's trying so much.
He's trying it so hard.
I felt so bad, and this is a little tangent, not to discuss what we were currently talking about, but I feel so bad because I realized from the last fight that I need to think more dynamically in terms of fights, because boy, I felt so bad that Morse ran up to somebody and was like, I'm here, I dashed. Next round, I gotta dash again. I'm here, I dashed. And I'm like, buddy, you gotta teleport. You have Misty Step.
It happens.
It happens. But yeah, no horror story today. I've become a little jaded with horror stories. I was looking them all up, and it's always something so bad. I'm like, I don't want to read this. Some of them were fairly interesting, where we had I found one where it was a very short story of someone going, I made a silly candy, one shot where we were all Snickers, and I was like, it's going on forever. This is a very long story. Oh, I'm not going to reading 1,600 words. No way. And yeah, too long for this. So, any final thoughts, everyone?
No.
Great. I'm drinking Tears of My Players.
Thanks. You have 2 cups like that.
I know I do. And until then, thank you for joining us on Above Table. Bye.